I may die. Hi guys, it's Storytime with L. This time, I'm gonna read you from Angel's Gate because, hey, gotta get you to read it. But I want to introduce you to Mordecai, our hero. And last time we got to start the book in chapter 1 and meet AG. And now we are still in chapter 1 and we're going to meet Mordecai. So, without further ado, here we go. Storytime with L. At the very edge of heaven, between the light and the citadel and earth, is a land of smoke and ash, a deep valley like a barren bowl beneath a sky of billowing clouds, black and pregnant with putrid rain. Here lies the verge, where angels and demons bleed, where the light of the citadel cannot reach, a borderland where the angels that serve only on faith, cut off from the light and grace of their brothers and their God. It was here the endless war raged, fought by the powers, the dark guardians of the gate, and the forgotten, the downcast and Damus who had been trapped after the fall. Long ago, before the fall, before the first war, before Lucifer rebelled and fell from grace, there had been beauty here. Color, long ago before the fall, before the war, before all the blood that had been spilled. The angels that had guarded that wasted domain had been white-winged and pure. Now they were as black as the demons they fought, as stained with shadow as the downcast against which they stood. With each sword stroke the illumination that made them servants of God dimmed. One day even that single spark would be extinguished, and they would fall, like Lucifer had before them. Some day all would fall, and nothing would remain in the verge but the bones of the dead. The air was hot, heavy, a still heat, the lull before the impending storm. All sensed it, angel and demon, all sensed the coming end of the key. All could feel that subtle shifting of power, the ripple that fluttered around the gate, the portal between heaven and earth. It drew them out of their caves, out of their lairs in forest and mountain. They came slinking up from the ground like an oily black shadow. They crawled from their holes and out onto the barren soil of the verge. There they gathered, a milling, roiling sea of wings and bright fangs, waiting for the key to fall, the power to fail, and the way to be opened. Another key was dying. They could taste that dying power, the wavering of light. They could taste it, feel it, smell it. The key was dying, drawing her last breath, and with that final expulsion, they would be drowning once more in war. At the edge of the verge, the powers, guardians of heaven, waited, their numbers diminished by centuries of battle. They were led by Paladin, the greatest of them all. They waited, quiet, resolute, though they all knew that this time, when the key passed, it could be their final stand. They feared this fate, knew their numbers were so few, but none would falter. They would not turn away, for this was their duty. For this they had been created. They had been formed to fight for their God, to kill at his demand, and protect the realm of man from the darkness that filled the verge. If they failed, if they fell, all was lost. Their duty, their purpose betrayed. They would hold back the darkness and protect mankind with their lives. An angel with dark eyes watched the waiting horde of forgotten, sweat and blood mingling as they ran down his face. Mordecai was a warrior with hard face and bloodied wings. Enter our hero. He stood ready to lead. Sorry, I love him. He's great. Here we go. He stood ready to lead, ready to die. His hair was black, tousled and spiked with blood and sweat. The armor that showed his body had been made long ago, long before the first war of Gadriel, the Watcher of the war. It was impenetrable, light and delicate, made from the rays of a dying star, cast by the Elohim to protect the armies of God. It was bloodied now, Even the small linked plates that encased the base of his wings and their curving edges were stained, dark and rusty, old blood, his blood. Mordecai moved through the ranks, watching, listening, waiting, as he, like all his brethren, stood ready for the war they all knew would come. A war that would rage until the power of the key was past, and the gate renewed, or until the last power fell, and the forgotten gained their freedom at long last. It was an endless cycle, a continuous pattern that made up existence in that long abandoned place. A key would fall, another would be born, and in the passing of the power, the forgotten would fight for their escape. With the death of the mortal key, the veil between the worlds would be at its thinnest. There would be a new key. There was a new key. This Mordecai could feel, but her gifts were not yet awakened, and all sensed this. All knew this. The gate would be unclaimed, and the barrier would be weak. The Daemons and Downcast gathered under the command of their leader Shatter, a blue and black demon, the most feared in the Verge, the one who served the darkness and fought to escape to the mortal realm of earth. Mordecai could see him, his black wings curled around him, his eyes dark in a sharp-boned face, as he stood at the head of his army, waiting with a patience that could only be born and shaped by war. The key died. She died with thunder, with lightning. The ground beneath them heaved and raged. They felt it, all of them, those born of light and those born of dark. They were struck to the ground by the roiling of the earth, falling to their knees. The sky overhead was split with fire, and the thunder roared with an angry voice. Mordecai fell to his knees as the ground continued to heave and shake. The wind buffeted at him, the thunder deafening. Then there was silence. Utter, absolute silence, in which he could not hear. He could not even hear himself draw a breath. In that stillness he knelt, waiting, and it was from that silence he heard the singing. Low at first, a hum, a hymn. Growing as a streak of light, bright and vibrant, shot from the shadows and nothingness of the threshold. An arrow of pure illumination that streaked high above the battlefield, singing. It was the soul of the key, called home to heaven, back to a place he could no longer go, called back to the void, called back to the path, called home. The soul was gone, the moment passed, and once more he was surrounded by the roaring of thunder, a roaring now filled, expanded by the war cry of the forgotten, as Shatter called them to battle. And that is where I'm going to leave you guys, at the beginning of a war. So until next time, I will talk to you all later.